Hey guys, and welcome to my channel and to this video. Today we will be doing some fun bookmarks, and well, I guess for this I will be using this Fontaine watercolor paper. It is 20 by 40 centimeters or 8 by 15.5 inches, and I have divided it into half, and then that half also into 3 parts. So I have 3 bookmarks for today. Also, we will be needing some watercolors, whatever watercolors you have, that will be just fine. A ruler, I have this ruler with circles, but of course if you don't have something like that, you can use anything you have that is a circular just to draw in some circles. I basically use some glass or whatever I have, a leftover from my washi tapes, whatever around you have, it will do. And then also we will be needing a pencil and an eraser, of course, to do our sketch. Today we will be using an ink pen. I have prepared this 03 and 01 from Etchr, and I'm not really sure which I'm gonna use. I will see later on. Also, we will be needing some cotton swabs for ears, so also prepare those. And of course some jars of water to clean your brushes. And for the brushes, I will be using these round brushes, one a little bit bigger, one a little bit smaller. Later on I'll see, maybe I'll use some others also, or some others, and any brush again that you have will do just fine. So I guess that's basically it. We can get started, so let's do it. As I mentioned earlier, I will be starting with this template for the circles and the first bookmark, and I'm just going around and adding some circles here and there, some a little bit bigger, some a little bit smaller, some all the way in the bookmark, some partially outside and not the entire circle, and just looking for the composition, how I find it to look nice. I do not want to make it too crowded, but I do want it to have a quite amount of those circles. And afterwards, I did privet the entire first bookmark quite well, and then adding on top this green and some brown, and I'm topping in with the tip of my brush, leaving on some parts a little bit darker pigment and on some parts a little bit lighter. I don't want this first layer to be dark, so I'm not painting it quite dark, and also I'm leaving some parts white. When finished with that, while it was drying, I moved on to my second bookmark, and for the second one I'm just drawing in some leaves. And again, only thing I'm being careful to do is to make them quite fat. I don't want thin leaves, I do want those leaves to be quite fat, and most of them are going outside of my borders of the bookmark. When finished with that, I'm again priveting that bookmark, and again quite well, enough of water, and topping in some of the green again, and I will, instead of brown for this one, I will be using yellow. I do want some distinction between those two bookmarks. They will be quite similar at the end, but I did want to make it slightly different, so I'm just topping in now yellow again, leaving some parts white. And just at the end, I'm topping in some clean water. Actually, I'm sprinkling some clean water just to make it pick up the pigment here and there and make more beautiful textures. For the last one, I'm drawing in the flowers, and quite simple flowers with 5, 6, 7 petals, and I'm just making them going into all sorts of directions. And when I paint them looking for on the center of the flower, I'm just making all the leaves same size, all the petals same size, and when I paint them on the side, like we're looking them from the side, I'm just painting in those lower, a little bit smaller, lower petals, of course. And when finished with that, I again priveted the entire bookmark. This time I'm using green and violet, doing exactly the same thing as I did for the previous two. I left it to dry completely, all 3 of my bookmarks, and then moving on to the second layer, just that negative part of the painting. So we're just painting negative. We are leaving those circles, those leaves, and those flowers. white, not really white because we did that background, but we are not painting those for the second layer, but painting around them. So that is called negative painting. And for the first bookmark, again, I'm using the same colors as I did for the background, but this time I'm just painting them a little bit darker, using a little bit more saturated color. And first I did pre-wet the part around those circles just to show you that that is the way that you can do it. If you're scared, if you're not painting fast and you're scared that you might get those ugly markings, lines, from the paint drying, you should pre-wet the part where you're painting, maybe 1/3, then the second third and the last third, and paint as you go downwards. Just paint while the paper is wet. And if not, if you can paint fast and really don't have that scares that you're gonna have markings and don't mind markings, you can paint them wet on dry. Just wet your brush and then paint in, rinse it in water and smudge it as I did later on. When finished with the entire bookmark, I'm just adding a little bit more of the details here and there, adding a little bit more green here and there, adding a little bit more of the brown, and then sprinkling just with the clean water. And I do want that, I don't want to have exactly the same value for the entire bookmark. I do want some parts to be a little bit more darker, have more pigment, and some parts a little bit lighter. And that is also the reason why I was adding some details and on top a little bit more pigment here and there. For the second one, I've painted it exactly the same as the first one, just adding this time also a little bit of the yellow. And again, using green and brown, some of the details maybe beneath those leaves, I've added something like a shadow, not really, but something that will just make those leaves a little bit more pop up. Third one, again, same thing, painting around the leaves, negative painting, but this time I'm using some green and I'm using same violet as that I used for the background. And just be careful that you're using enough saturated colors, because if you use them too light with too much water, well, you actually won't make that distinction, because you can see right now some of the flowers are quite dark at the end, and when I was adding that background, it just wasn't dark enough. The flowers weren't visible, they weren't standing out as for the leaves and the circles, so I was adding a little bit more pigment around them. Now I'm just painting in the centers of the flowers, nothing else. I won't be painting the petals, I'm just painting the centers, and I'm adding a little bit of the darker pigment and then smudging it on the entire center, making some parts of the center a little bit lighter and some parts a little bit darker. And when that all dried completely, I just moved on to using my cotton swabs, and I will be using those just to make the edges of the circles, of the leaves, of the flowers a little bit softer, because I don't want the harsh edges. I don't want that line that, when you paint just has that line from the watercolor. I don't want that here. I do want the soft edges, so I'm just wetting my cotton swab, and I'm just going around it and on the edges to make it a little bit more soft. And when finished with that, I'm using ink pen, and I decided to use a thinner one. This is 0.1, quite thin ink pen, because I do want those lines to be a little bit thinner, not too dark. And as you can see, I'm just going a couple of times around the circle. I'm not even trying to paint one beautiful line around it. Those lines are broken, so not really trying to make it perfect. Go a little bit inside the circles, that is fine. Same thing for the leaves, making those lines a little bit sketchy and broken. Again, for the flowers, same thing. I'm drawing in the centers, sketching in the centers, and then adding some petals. Again, not really trying to make those lines perfect. And at the end, I also decided to add some lines going from the center to make it look as though there are some creases on my petals, and also drew in the centers of the leaves. And right now I've picked up again my cotton swabs, dipped it slightly into the paint, and then with that tip just pressing it here and there, tapping in on my circles, just adding a little bit more texture, maybe something like shadows on them, also on the leaves. I've picked up a little bit of the brown and painting in the centers, adding in the centers, and you can see those lines at the center look quite smudged, but very, very nice. That's something that you would not really be able to achieve with the brush. It would have too much water, lines would be visible, and with that I've just added a little bit of the texture, a little bit more interest to the center, same thing around the centers of the flowers. Now a little bit more of the splatters, because of course what is the painting without the splatters? So I'm adding splatters in the same colors that I did use for the background and for the bookmarks, and that is it. We are done. So quite simple and easy, right? Nice idea maybe for a bookmark. You can also use this idea for cards, for again any occasion. Fun idea, fun painting. Paint this with your kids or your friends or maybe your nephews, whatever, and it's so cool and so fun. And again, thank you so much for watching, for all your support. If you do like this video, please hit the like button, share it, and comment. If you haven't still, please do subscribe to my channel. That will mean a lot to me. Maybe consider joining my channel. That would also mean a lot to me. And again, thank you so much for watching, and I hope I'll see you next time. Bye!